Hi, Ross, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk about your journey with Mediation Academy. Congratulations on being our best student of all time. We're excited to get to know you better. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself? What is your story?
Yeah, Monica, it's actually such a privilege for me to have come across Mediation Academy. The journey started 2 years ago, where I was looking for something that could wrap all of my history and my experience into one package that would represent me and what I would like to offer really well. My father is an advocate, so I grew up with a deep sense of law, a deep sense of jurisprudence, a deep sense of, through deep conversations with him over the years, really coming to an understanding of the law and the benefits of the law and the drawbacks of the law. And in many cases, the letter and the spirit of the law almost struggling with each other in some cases and in some instances. And I think growing up, that was always a very valuable part of my upbringing, because it gave me an understanding of right and wrong. It gave me an understanding of justice and the mechanics of justice in South Africa. So while I had a deep respect for the law, I also understood that there were instances where the law didn't have the humanity that it needed to bring about what was ultimately the best human outcome. And that was obviously not conscious. It wasn't something that I carried around with me consciously. But I went to Rhodes University. I did a Bachelor of Commerce in Industrial Sociology and Management. And from there, I actually went into the financial services sector for a few years, where I obviously went further into law, but through a financial planning lens, and realized that the success in the industry, in the financial services industry, was more around how to build relationship and how to sell than it was about really digging into the best legal outcome, the best financial outcome for the client. So I got a bit disillusioned with that after a few years, and found myself in marketing and advertising, other side of the spectrum completely. And over that 6-year period, I actually developed a skill set in brand strategy and marketing strategy, which was ultimately around understanding people and harnessing your understanding of people to be able to meet their needs, to be able to satisfy their wants. And I can't remember who it was now. I think it might have been Carl Benz, who said, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have told me they wanted a faster horse. And he was obviously the innovator of the automobile. And so you learn that what people say they want and what people say they need is often in their best attempt to express what they want or need, but they don't have the grid to actually innovate something that's even better, that would even more suitably meet their need or their want. So, and then finally, I went into a company where I am now, where I'm actually playing a senior management role in human resources. So I've got this very interesting eclectic mix of experience over the years, and in some ways it's a real asset, and it makes me wealthy. And in other cases, it actually makes me feel fragmented and frustrated, because there's something working on the inside of me that wants an expression, and I just couldn't quite coin it. I couldn't quite find what it was. And after a lot of struggle and a lot of wrestle, just ping, mediation. I went through my own divorce in 2015, and I can't say my divorce was necessarily an acrimonious, terrible divorce. It was still a divorce, and I experienced the pain and the human suffering that happens through a divorce, as well as the fact of you can't make good decisions always when you're in that space and when you're going through that ordeal. So I made some decisions during that time that probably were not the best, not the most balanced, and probably erred on the side of wanting to be more than fair, if I can say that. And while that's a good thing, I don't regret it. But if I'd had a good mediator sitting with me during that time, it would have been a case of, let's really look at the long term. Let's really understand how this picture is going to build as we go forward from here. And I think it was just the right time, the right season, the right moment for everything to converge. When I came across Mediation Academy, and I think it was October 2022, sorry, 2021, October 2021. And I'd love to say that I hit this course with 2-3 weeks and it was done, but not really. It took me 2 years to actually get to it. And I think that although that was a very frustrating process, it was actually a very necessary process, because during that time I really wrestled and grappled with what it was all about, how to mix it in with my work, how to mix it in with my family commitments and responsibilities. Eventually, November last year, I decided, no, this is really now an urgency and I need to get it done. And it was actually quite fortuitous, because I had to go in for a small surgery and I had to be at home for 2 weeks, and I wasn't allowed to go to work. And I thought, oh man, it's going to be a long time to be away from work. And so I lay in bed for 2 weeks and I studied on my phone for 2 weeks. I went through everything, did all the exercises, all the exams, all the lectures, all the sessions, and was really just actually so blown away by the effect that it had on me and the result that it produced. So when Barry told me that I'd actually scored, top marks, I really was just completely overcome. I really felt like this convergence in my life was almost like it was the capstone, almost like an endorsement, a sign off on the fact that this is the right step, this is the right thing for me. And it just confirmed a deep sense of calling that I carry for helping to stop the bleed in terrible conflicts, and helping to bring wisdom and practical insight and understanding to people that are in a state of flux and in a state of crisis, in many instances, when they're going through a divorce or a dispute or a conflict of any kind in the family setting. So I really am just so charged with a sense of purpose for how this is going to unfold. I know it's early days, but I'm really excited.
So yes, you are our top student of all time. And have you always been an A student?
No, actually. I had a lot of people in my school career nagging on me, telling me that I should be. And yet I never really was. I had flashes of brilliance where I decided to actually sit down and do my work and be serious and be mature and be focused. And then I was always impressed with the results. But I think just when you're a young boy at that age, yeah, I can't speak for everybody, but for me it was definitely a very complicated time, and there were many things vying for my interest and attention. And so I was kind of cruising by in the 70s, mid to upper 70s, most of my schooling life. But I think that for me, the missing piece, the key to excellence is finding something that you're passionate about. And otherwise you really are just, you're coping, you're getting through, and that's about it. I became an A student when I became passionate.
So while you were studying, how did you maintain a good work and study balance?
Well, I think the process pretty much started with atrocious balance. If it had been a course that had a strict deadline, I would have probably had to be more urgent about bringing that balance, but it would have been very forced. The locus of control would have been external and not internal. And I think for me, it was important to get to the point where internally I could activate and make this happen. So yeah, I can't really say balance was can't really say I maintained good balance, but I think that the way the course was configured was so flexible that it was able to eventually wake me up to my own sense of responsibility and my own sense of autonomy to make it happen.
Do you have any advice for people who are interested in studying mediation?
I think that it's a brilliant skill set for everyone to have, whether or not you want to actually form a career out of it, or whether or not you want to actually make it your arrowhead in your career and in your life. I think that we are surrounded by so much conflict. We are surrounded by so much dysfunction. There is just so much crisis around us, and having a skill set where you've primed yourself in emotional intelligence, and you've given yourself tools, the toolkit and the skill set to be able to be a source of peacemaking amongst people, to me is outstanding. And so I would advise everybody to bring themselves into the mindset that they are able to bring settlement and peace and calm and structure to chaotic and disordered situations.
What do you want to achieve with this qualification?
Family conflict and family law mediation is definitely where I'm going to start. It's become much bigger in my heart and mind space than it was when I started this course. The reason I actually saw viability in doing the mediation studying mediation was that in the labor relations space, in the business context, I needed to bring better outcomes than what the legal instruments that were at hand were able to provide. I found myself getting frustrated that it was always a very cold, very clinical, very formal scenario, and often a power imbalance that resulted in a less than optimal outcome. So that was what initiated my thought process around the mediation. But having been through it and having had my own personal journey in the family law space and in the family conflict scenarios, I really feel like that's going to be the heartbeat of where I want to go. And as I harness and as I hone and develop that skill set and grow in experience, I want to be known as a conflict resolution expert in whatever space that I find myself in. But the family space is always going to be closest to my heart. I'd love to, in the very near future, be focused entirely on providing that service to people. I can't endorse Mediation Academy strongly enough. If people are looking for a voice to say, do it, it's worth it, it's credible, it's thorough, it's detailed, it digs deep into you as well as into the subject matter, then this is that voice.